Shot here. You are live.
All right. Freaking weirdos, that's what we are.
Zootopia? Anybody seen that? No? Okay, just me.
Yeah,
When
because
they-
they responded that fast.
Where they go to the DMV and everything's in slow motion.
Oh, yes. Well, at least I've seen that part.
It's the only part you need to see. That's it. Okay, we're done for the live day. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Hope you got a
See you
lot.
tomorrow.
Oh my goodness.
All right, here we are, the week of June 15th.
Yeah. Halfway
Already.
through June.
And what have you done with your time?
Me or them?
Them. Them.
I'd be curious to know.
They. Me too. So we have been on today, April 15th was our first, so 2 full months. Actually longer than that, but
Well, that's a milestone, huh?
yeah.
Especially the amount of views we've been getting lately. That seems to have really grown.
Well, probably because we're bringing value. Yes? Thanks, Greg.
Yes.
So this week we're gonna be talking about thoughts, and with our, you can't see them all,
Well, yeah.
the sticky notes that we have all over the place. But we're gonna be talking about power of your words today. And we'll expand on that over the week. But today it's power of words. So I will jump right in. I was meeting with somebody today as they were working through some issues, which weren't big ones, but I think just because of their parents, their friends, their school, they've kind of backed themselves into a box and they started labeling themselves as not being smart enough or good enough, or, getting angry and not allowing certain people to talk to them a certain way. And, so it took me about an hour really to talk through it, but I was just amazed at how her limiting beliefs of herself were allowing her to think less of who she was. And I think the other part that struck me so much was that she was so young. She's only 18 years old, getting ready to go into the military, and really just wanting some advice from a female that's been in the military. That was really how the conversation started. And it ended up being a coaching session with her about what her capabilities are, and that, the things that she knows is because that is what her parents have taught her, right? And it's not that her parents are necessarily right or wrong, if we want to look at it black and white, because they've learned from their parents and their grandparents and their circumstances. And so we tend to pass those things on without even really being conscious of doing it. We've talked about conscious and the subconscious mind. And we'll always continue to talk about that because one is present and one is not. And it's this gigantic pool that we tend to pull from without even realizing it. So as her parents were, successful in their own right, they expected her to be as well. And so when she was learning things and working through things, she was having to deal with a lot of anger because certain things didn't come to her as easily. So she automatically thinks of herself as not being very intelligent. And having to, go to college, but she doesn't want to go to college yet because she doesn't really know what she wants to do. She wants to be in law enforcement, but she has a problem with, anger because she doesn't like people coming at her. And I was like, that's going to be a problem if you're a police officer or a paramedic or a firefighter working through those things. So, we worked through really where that anger was coming from. And after about an hour, we realized that she'd been taking on a lot more than an 18-year-old young woman should. Any child should not have to grow up too quickly. I think parents as parents, I know Fritz and I were talking about this earlier, is our expectations of our children and making sure to push them, for what's appropriate for them to be able to take on. And we have to remember that kids have never lived before. They don't know how the world works. They are learning all the time, gigantic sponges. And so not only do you have to be careful when they're young, but I think you need to be careful as they become young adults as to what they take with them. Your words are so powerful, and how you speak to them about certain things that, and I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, because we get very passionate about how our children act and how we think they should act and all the things. And sometimes we put greater expectations on them than we mean to. But really, it's all because we love them and we really so much don't want them to make the mistakes maybe that we made, or that we just don't want them to get hurt. So for her, it was having to grow up really fast with two younger siblings and then not feeling smart enough or good enough to go out and carry on with her life and do it well. And so, she finally cried and kind of it brought that all to the top, that I think she finally released that she didn't have to know all of those things to be successful, and that she was just beginning her life's journey, and that it's still okay to make mistakes, because we do all the time. But the power of words, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to get in front of her as she is leaving for boot camp next week. So I hope that that conversation sticks with her just enough that I let her know that she's good enough to go do what she wants to do, and that she's super brilliant because she gets bored in school. Well, to me, if she's curious and wanting to do things, it just means that she's a whole lot smarter than people have allowed her to be. And I don't know if, school is always the best gauge of anybody's intelligence. I think we're all gifted with something, and I don't always think that school necessarily can give us a grade that way. So anyway, that brought on the whole conversation of thoughts and the power of words that we have. And I felt that that story was important to bring, because I'm sure that most of us have children or deal with young adults. So, Fritz, what do you think?
Well, I think we have interactions with people daily.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, if not most, well, we'll just go with a lot. I think a lot of people don't realize the power in words, like the real power, and how damaging words can be and how encouraging words can be. You can, without knowing and not being conscious of your speech, you can literally destroy somebody with your words. I mean, you can ruin their day. You can ruin their week. You can ruin their month. You could put them in a PTSD attack. You could raise their anxiety. You could put them in a state of depression. There's a list of things you can do with your words and how powerful they are, especially when it comes to relationships between husband and wife. That is one piece, I think, that when it comes to how powerful words are, that gets missed and is not placed where it should be. Because, man, just your wife or your husband asking you a question, a simple question, like just a curiosity question, the next word that comes out of your mouth and the tone behind it could set the whole mood for the day, for the night, for the moment. And I've preached, you're stricken by the power of your words a lot. And I talk about the power of words a lot. And it's because I learned it a while ago, and I understand how powerful they truly are. And not only the power of words, but there's a power in the silence amongst words too. Like a real power. But that's where people tend to jump the gun, is in that moment of silence, and that silence is there for a purpose.
Well, I always say there's power in your pause. And a lot of people, and my son is 100% guilty of this, and we've tried to show him that pausing in conversation is not bad. Like, there really is power in pause. And I think we hear about it a lot when people are speaking in public. When you hear a public speaker, or for us, as a matter of fact, when we talk like this, some people feel discomfort when there's silence. And I think for those people who are trained to understand that when you pause, it's not because we're waiting necessarily for a response. It's really because we're letting it sink in, that power of just silence, and retrospect, and understanding exactly where somebody's coming from is a really powerful thing to have. But when you're expecting somebody to react to you on purpose, silence can be devastating to a conversation when somebody is in a high emotional state. Silence can come off as you don't care. The triggers, oh my gosh, it can really make somebody feel like they are not connected to you. And it can have that downward spiral effect. It's that icky feeling. And you feel like you have to keep talking, but you don't always have the words. And then you usually say something you shouldn't. That's why there's power in the pause. So just take a breath. Even to walk away, that's healthy to do in relationships, in business relationships, in business meetings. It's okay to adjourn a meeting and come back and talk about it again the next day. All of us process information differently. We process words differently. All of us are going through separate things because we all live separate lives. And nobody understands what's going on when we go home, or when we went to lunch, or whatever, the email that we got from somebody. So that pause is really big. And I think in relationships, it's the physical connection that can break down those emotions and barriers too. And so that just goes to another power of silence, is that you don't have to have words to give a hug. You don't have to have words to reach out and just touch your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, friend. If you're seeing that they're having a hard time and they're super emotional and they can't quite find the words, it's okay to reach over and go, it's okay. Like, breathe, take a second, take a walk, go outside, and whatever you need to do to bring yourself back, because naturally we don't like to feel like that. It works against us physically when we feel discomfort. And a lot of times we don't know how to process it. So we don't know how to act when we have it. So, man, there are so many layers to the power of thought and words.
Well, yeah, I mean, how many times have you heard me say, you live at the power of which you speak and think?
Yeah. I
mean, you do. Think about that. Whatever you have in life, you spoke there, or you thought your way there.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody else to blame but you.
You are your circumstances.
Circumstances don't mean anything.
Right. Unless
you allow them to have meaning. Outside of that, circumstances have no meaning.
And I think, if you're like really understanding this when you're watching this, you can really start to recognize those people that you're around that talk themselves into being miserable all the time.
Just listen to people. Money is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
I think like money and like your job.
Listen to the people around you that talk about money. And the ones that don't have or are always struggling are always talking about how they don't have and are always struggling. So how are you supposed to get better or acquire more or make decisions to be better with money or fiscally responsible or create more if you're constantly talking about how you don't have,
Mhm.
and how you can't. That's like trying to mix oil and water. How are you going to have something that you keep speaking of not ever having? It's problems. The same thing. If the people that always have the problems in life, they're always talking about their problems. But, you know, the biggest thing is if you want life to change, then let's talk about the solutions.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the things you want, not the things that you don't want, or the things that you have that you don't want. Talk about where you want to go. Talk about the things you want to have. Think about the things that you want to have. Have that mental clarity on what it's going to look like to have more money, or what it's going to look like to have that relationship, or what it's going to look like to have that job. You know, you got to think about the things that you want. Talk about the things that you want. Don't talk about where you're at. Don't talk about the things you don't want, because those are the things that you're always going to have. You can't wish for things. There's that power in your words and thoughts, and this isn't some magical hocus pocus shit. This is reality here. You will speak things literally into existence.
Good or bad. Good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, Henry Ford said it best. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
I say that all the time.
And it
All the time.
as short of a sentence that is, it is
Super.
probably one of the most powerful
It
when
is.
it talks about what we're talking about.
It is, because I think you can apply it. Anybody and wherever you are in your life, you can absolutely apply that if you really are honest with yourself and think about.
Well, that's the key word right there.
Oh yes, not believing your own bullshit. Yeah, that's the piece. So if you really take a good look at something that you previously said, like the things that you have, you should not be surprised about, right? So I've always wanted a Harley. Well, I have one because I talked about it in a positive way. I had a picture of it on my wall in my office. And I want to say I put that picture on my wall in I bought it in June. I think it was like March or April. I had put that picture on my wall. And within a few months, I had it. So, but however, there are things that I have talked about in my past before I came to this realization that I focused so much on what I didn't want. And I kept getting it. I kept getting crap jobs. I kept getting no money in my checking account because I was constantly looking at my balance and going, I have nothing in here. I have nothing in here. I have nothing in here. And you speak it into existence, and it does sound nuts. But we have to understand the power that we hold. Every single one of us has the power in our mouth, and the things that we talk about and the things that we think about and the things that we hold on to, you will continue to get more of it.
And I want to clarify, we are not talking about the law of attraction here.
No.
This is,
no.
It may sound similar, but that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah. I know that Fritz has touched on the RAS, which is a whole nother level of this whole week, and we will get into that at another time. But
which is when you speak, like you're saying,
yeah.
And you talked about the subconscious and conscious
yep.
mind, right?
Yep.
And we talked about this last week. The subconscious mind has a much bigger database
yep.
for memory than the conscious mind does. So the conscious mind is what puts in the data bank of the subconscious. So if you are not cautious, and that's what we're talking about, you live at the level in which you speak, because it's all going into the subconscious mind. So this autopilot thing happens. So when you get your paycheck, you automatically go, this isn't enough. How am I going to pay my bills? I just keep working week to week. I can never make ends meet. I can never. What the hell do you think is going to happen? I mean,
Yep.
It's pretty simple here. So, and I know, and I'm not trying to offend anybody by saying it's pretty simple. It's simple now for me because I understand it at such a depth that I never did before.
Right.
I would love to help other people get there, and that's
Yeah.
why we started this whole company, was
Yep.
because we're tired of what?
We're tired of people kind of wallowing in their stuff, and we're tired of seeing people's greatness and then not seeing it for themselves. So, for us, it is, we both went to the school of hard knocks. We have done all the bad things. We have failed at many things. And we sat around and we talked about all the shit that we've been through and all the training that we've had. And what are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with it? So here we are. We're here. We come on every single day except for Saturdays, Sundays. Those are away days. Those are replenishment days. But we come on to bring you into our creative world as we go through this and we meet with people and we have conversations. That is the perfect time to come on here and go, this is what I ran into today. This is the process that we're at. The board that's behind us that has topics, it doesn't look maybe like a lot. Oh my gosh. It's been up there for a week and we have barely cracked the surface of all of the stuff that is in there that we will continue to bring to you because we're constantly learning. This is something that is constant. Your subconscious brain, I don't think truly people understand the power of the zombie state that we get into. Your brain just automatically goes there. Your brain wants to do the least amount of work as possible. That is just how we're made. So if you are not present and in control, you're going to just revert right back to old habits.
Well, I mean, if the brain wasn't that powerful, why are they developing supplements called nootropics to actually increase and enhance your cognitive brain? I mean, your whole thought process. So your memory, your thinking, your analytical thinking, all of that. If it wasn't such a big deal, why are they developing products like that?
It's kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
it is a muscle, really. I mean, even though it's a big fat blob.
And if you don't work it, what happens?
If you don't work it, you feel lethargic. You feel all the nasty thoughts that you had. Boy, they just come like no big deal. When you start to really work on yourself is when it becomes difficult. Because now you're remapping. Now you're literally changing your own mind and you're becoming a much more present of what your thoughts are. And when that happens, you become much more present of what everybody else is saying, especially when it has to be about themselves. And it almost gets to the point where it's hard to be around them because you see it so clearly of what they're doing to their own situations. And
that's where you get into humility and mental strength. And
you have to be so careful. You do. You have to be so careful when you get into those situations because you can, without knowing it, if somebody is not ready to hear what you're saying as good and as golden as it could be, it can come off as being shaming. And we never want to do that. We are not speaking from a pedestal by any means. We are a work in progress. And that's why we're so passionate about keeping this stuff up front and talking about our thoughts and talking about, the knowledge and intelligence and the subconscious and the conscious mind and all of these things, because we are programmed through our interactions with people and our families, and we stop thinking for ourselves, and we tend to always just go to that negative piece because it's just easier to do that. Misery loves company didn't just fall out of the air. I mean, that's just really true, and it's meant to protect us. But when we let it get out of control, it can ruin our lives because there's power in our thoughts and our words and everything that we have. we've brought into existence. We have spoken these things into existence. And as easily as we have figured that out, right, as we come to this realization, you can change it. You can change it right now. You can change how you talk to people, how you talk to yourself. I'm more concerned about what you say to yourself than necessarily what you say to others, because when you start to be kind here, it's really easy to be kind to others. It feels really good when you start to say nice things to yourself, that you are successful and you have a lot to be proud of, and that you should celebrate yourself and keep working on your mind.
So Greg brought up the selling topic.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my challenge to you, Greg, because honestly, we've probably covered this topic in the last 3 weeks of lives. So because selling isn't anything more than a conversation and asking questions and listening. And there's a whole leadership week. You can pull out nuggets in that whole week as far as things that would help in selling. Today's topic is a big one that also helps in selling. The week before the topics we were covering, I know many of nuggets were there for selling. So we can cover that subject in one of these lives for sure, but I have a feeling you'll find the answer that you're looking for is probably in the last 3 weeks worth of lives that we've done. So you might want to go back, watch some of those, and you're going to pick up those nuggets, because selling it's not a thing like people make it out to be.
Yeah.
It's really, people that are really good at selling understand asking questions to take that person from where they're at to where they want to be and asking for the sale. I mean, that's the basics of selling right there.
I think a lot of times you miss the ask. You're having the conversation, you're really into them, you're solving a problem, right? You're providing value. When you provide value, oh my gosh, people are going to want what you have just naturally.
We talked about
So
solution-based words and thinking like 20 minutes ago.
So are you listening, Greg?
Okay, so how about attraction? That's in there too.
It is.
I you know, and I'm not trying to be impossible here, Greg, but honestly, that the whole attraction piece was in there too. And today's was just literally about attraction, which is why I said that the law of attraction is not what we were talking about, but your words and your thoughts will attract what you want.
Yeah.
It's deep, and that's why. I mean, it goes really deep, so you got to kind of read between.
We'd be on here for a whole nother 30 minutes if we delved back into that. So,
but it's there.
Take a look at the topics over the past couple of weeks. You will find them in there. And we'll continue to cover this. We're going to go over thoughts all week long. And we will, I'm sure, overlap in some of what we're saying, but it's important. And every time you hear it, you hear something different. So we will always continue to repeat ourselves in ways. Again, the board behind us is crazy. But we'll keep coming to you and always keep commenting. If you love what we're sharing with you, please, please share this. Invite people to our Facebook page and to our YouTube, and subscribe on the other side. And stay tuned, because we have some big stuff coming. Always, always do. And we appreciate you. So until tomorrow.
Yes, thank you all. We're honored that you watch us, and please like and share. Love you.
We'll see ya.